남동고 주거성 바에 제양마에 제양 저바야 마가로 바저바 군지랑 코르데예비 도바선절로 제와 건다 야달로 마나르미 저발로 사달람 제용대라도래도 제정가 고방녀도 요 이모 고초순데 석자승계에 대바데 제벌바다니 검사 조반도를 텔레조로데 제불로 마소와데 고조좀 제때 모든 바랑 하고 와서 제변자바야 탑되는 제르면 내가 주자 남이 잡라서 나지 남다데 제정간에 급제다니 람마제 모는 같이 남마잡다도 제저선도 제로여서 지종 사다는 것에 매점되는 나다다는 로고 모자다다 진인고 저저가 안집에 도저히 잡아서 와데 뭐 가다 주야 넘버도 벌러를 되지 도저히 거를 요대를 제로마저도 도저히 잡아서 와데 상하다와 바지 저와다 도몽임 조사대 절진 조사가 자매냠는 더도네 돈이 매물을 년도 바르고 som동아 전다 치제제 야도매 보여버 지라서 심지 남제도는 섬제도도 다지나 담바 치제님도 잡도소 들레냠도나 보고서 원래 수고를 빼 초반 강해요 그래 리진 리진 당 컨트롤 루버 top center 알레 다 center 알레 셈라 디아요 말에 컨트롤한 거래 들이다요 그래 비타베 지와가 띵마 아사티 디 담베레 여래 닝기게 반도 차되네 닝기가 비데 노차가 비데 제와요래 드리테 산촉sem을 저트나 원래 산촉sem을 저도 산촉sem을 저 맞나 노차드니 시바드니 안 컨트롤을 저도 타도는 저도 동부에 주소를 남고래 싸우는 산촉sem을 제와가 되냐
착바드 제와를 제와 착방아 고스모스
디 삼바 제와요 봐 다다 고소 배주 도보토모 제와요라 제 노차르데 제와라 제 이제 노차르데 노차 강라데 틀레르데 요래지 변나 제 상촉성을 저서는 오 참아되나 이리 선이 빼라 이 제와가 돼 르르 셈나 대와요나 들이 이나 제와요래 알레 르르 대와 미선이 이나 컨트롤라 요래가 타도라 드나야가 안로만의 상상 빼놓고 코바라 냥인데 이변라 동보죠 아로만의 상상이 변나 디 차바가 되와된 군생네 대 냠리는 세 탑소나 산제 살아도 잘루도 버져래 냠서 말로니 차바라 힘바데 지네 들이텔라 코토도 타도라서 버지네 din 코바는 참 버져래 din 산제 탐제 대 달롱 냠 디동을 송고요래 노차 콤팔라 동제 마리즈 베데
디르발라 엔 틱레디 포모기 류나라 칸데여스
찌빠래
one and the same
찌빠라 보면 찌빠래 집진 로마고 포모 카카리 요 말이지 내가 트리플 방게들이 차오르면이 or some chipares, the thing you chipares, on the Egyptian Roma Kong, Pumiguli Sang Diego song.
Pumola tigle yore sungwarwata. Pumola tigle yore bal.
이 틀에 요래 찌빠래 포모니 찌빠래 찌빠이 송으래
Diyor wala. Kyoga inarwa. Tigle jik shorea yorwa. Pumo tigle kante shorgores. Datsen tigle shorgore kante res.
말이 다들 다쳐도 하고 열면 이 랑길 누구 감도 와보라 다야 요래 다다 핀중이가 내와대 될 때인 송으로 봐
Nare.
핀중이가 내와대 될 때인 요래
Nermuche dilabwa mare. Anzo pugi tigle shorea yorwa. Munsumdu shorea thoya yorwa.
리
Koran pumodu tigle di kante thongires. Datsen babgido wadirwe.
짠잠을 많이 짠잠을 해요 또 다른 거 시바는 막뭐 요래 루게 내와대 될 때인 요래 뭐네 가리 소야요 시야요 말이 변지 미리 감다 짜와보 체요래 미 감차로 찌바이소 되니 비지가 내와요 와지 내와 될 때인 요래 내와 될 때인 요래 대바다 시바요 말 내와대 될 때인 요래 되잖아 되니 뒤에 빼는 공디 짠잠이다 시바 망보 요래가
Dinganzoro wala. Phowa nyamle chidu ninkal tigle yorwa. Za umenal. Di ya higlan ya dogro wala.
뒤틀이 세마래
Di dang di tigle khagar besel. Tonda.
뒤 가래 뒤 남식이 틀리래 남발 10이 틀리래 갈당디 바도 감니 낙텀 잔로 요라 뒤 감니 뒤 틀 감마이가 카데고 남식이 고디 뭐 메바래 다들 하람 때도 다이 틀린데 와 이래 얘네야 뒤 남식 뒤에 마음이다 지금 메바 뭐 메바래
If you lose the drop, then you make a child. And if you lose it, the sign is you lose the complexion. Your skin become, you lose the radiation of your complexion. And your hairs change their color. And you become very short-tempered. And there's no joy, no experience of happiness. When there is no tigle, then you get mad with everyone, including your best friend. So the drop is the source of joy, source of bliss. So when it is used for ordinary, sexual pleasure, then it becomes very limited. It becomes attachment. But when it is utilized in the right way, it becomes a source of great physical and mental joy. And that joy can be a foundation for generating loving kindness and compassion to all sentient beings. So when the drop is not properly used, then you lose the chance of being in bliss, chance of enjoying happiness. So the practice of tigle is a kind of crossroad to samsara and nirvana. If you utilize the drop in your practice and make it the source of ultimate realization, then it can lead you to enlightenment. But if you are attached to it and if you use it for ordinary pleasures, then in relation to that you develop attachment and aversion, and that leads to samsara. So that is why the Buddhas taught the practice of channel, wind and drops to transform the function of that drop into a great cause for attaining enlightenment. Both male and female have these drops. And the great Tara has said that in reality there is no distinction between male and female. They are all both one and the same. And the distinction that appear is a confusion. And just to show that in essence there is no difference, she chose to be enlightened in a female form. So the function of drop is in the female body as well as in the male body. So the male and female both experience bliss, and that shows that both have the source of bliss, which is the drop in the bodies. But losing it doesn't always mean, losing it outside your body. It means when they are activated in the body, and when it is experienced, and it is experienced in an ordinary way, it's like losing. It's like not being utilized. And when it is done in the proper way by integrating in practice, it is best utilized. So that thickly in the power practice is different from the drop. That thickly is your consciousness. So of course that consciousness has a connection with the actual drop. It has a connection. Yeah, word is same. So just before the blackout happens in the bardo, these two drops meet at the heart, and when they are like merged, then you experience the blackout. So that is the tigle we are talking about, red and white. Rinpoche tanda dorje purpe nyamlen chi yorwal di dzogchen nyamlen chi na inji minji gorwes gechemborwe shudo
purpa nyamlen
purpe nyamlen di dzogchen nyamlen chi gona di inji minji gorwes
go mari rana ge lege sa pe lo di soso ke tata purpa drop go samri dumdu yo pa tini cherap nguje lege sa de wa una me hla kang dum ne chip pa tana chi erwa pena tata ka ji be dim cho nyam se lege yo re nyuma ko purpa nyam se lege re a cherap le sa tata de pa ka chip pa le pena ma to to ki be hla kang nyam ni la hla chik la ti nyami cha chawa tak ta yo re tata te di ne le hla par de da pu chele de te purpa so re le so ji ba.
To practice Dzogchen, it is not necessary to practice Vajrakilaya. Dzogchen practitioner can choose to practice any deity he or she likes. For instance, in the Kagyu lineage, the main idam is Chakrasambhara, and the Nyingma practice more Vajrakilaya. But depending on the karmic connection, you can choose whichever deity is more inspiring for you. And by practicing any deity, you can accomplish all activities. But the general description is that the Vajrakilaya practice is emphasizing more on the wrathful activity. And tigle nyam rawal. Nyam ne yang chu soya yorwes. Soya.
Soya yor ta ni ta hipcha de zalong nyam ni ka du chena mani. Ta ne tang de ri de xie ya mani soya yor le pena. Xiaoba jie ya yore de, zhe zang min le de, so ya yore de, zuo xiaoba jie gu yore de. Nyam li di wang di sung gu le, da ju zuo bin le de, tata chakpa nyam su ling gu le sung la, nyam li ka le de la, tata jimbe xira gu nyu mu bang guo nu taba de bin le, dawa yu na, tiri di dawa de ma zhan le, tiri tili na so jimbe tili, lu jibe tili na ka mang bu yore, tiri za jie tili dama, nyam tugu 말해도 리포 티시우나 따와요나 냠고 말해야지 따와면 착과 찍고들 유목을 안 가면 되는데 하자 착과 제라는 소즈베 틀리냐 같이 싫어요래 배나.
The question was, can one regain tigle and how? Through confession and through practices and through also some substances, it is possible to regain tigle, but this is not the right time to talk about these things in detail. These are taught during the practice of channel, drop and wind, and right now it's just a kind of simple introduction. We are not going to go in detail about these things. So the tigle has a lot of elements in it. Some element is responsible for life, some element is responsible for, blood and color, and that the tigle contains the cause of all our life. So if you are a practitioner of mindfulness, and if you are able to, control all thoughts and afflicting emotions, in that case, if you have that view, realize, then you can control your tigle, and you can choose to, retain the part of tigle that you want to keep and the part of tigle that you want to lose. In that case, you are allowed to do these things, these practices. Without having that confidence of view, trying to practice tigle can sometimes even kill yourself by losing the most essential part of the tigle. So maybe in tigle, the modern scientists also say there are many cells, right? So something similar what Rinpoche is saying. Some part of it is necessary for your life, some part of it is for mental stability and so forth. So using that without much confidence in the view, out of attachment, can lose your life. Could a difficult person in your life not also be a bodhisattva teaching and helping you to work out your karma? That Rinpoche murang tiwa di pe gonyo po shiuji durwa. Nga yaku pena di michi ki rwala. Michi ki tsu nganzo no kena. Michi ki tsu no kewa ina rwala. Ene nganzo ta chik pa chanchu ki semtang dinde ki gone chik pa di midi dui matubna rwa. Ene di kangla nganzo ki pa ene dorje purba ki di kane pa chik dui dapche na rwa. Ene kande yong kires.
Di tunda dire.
Diki drebu kande yong kires. Drebu di kande yong kires.
Di tati mide derta abri. Mide la control aya yo mare. Mide derchik nimbo chinga pena. Mide derchik nimbo chinga ta hora. Diwali chikpa de tsama yeni sangje gyore. Khorang dada ngalo de pa tangya de chikni munji legin dewa yore. Nini tatan chaji jina khorang nyumu ba gyore. khorang nyumu ba gyune nge tere dorje papal saada khorang shedang de tiri ore tiri tawani mega chikpaginde tiri sabdo mega chikpaginde tiri toku san tiri khor dansem chuli me ko de jingni boji khorang ni shedang de dungere ne ku shedang me par ton de khor phi tak yore tiri tawa ko tiri dorje papa kraya yin ndri pena karta papa ka khar chusin je khade ninji gen zine mo tongwa tata leka 가르치는 게 심지 루마당 와지 니게 되게 세완 길 도야요 말 별로 미쳐다나 다리 오데 derching 좀 보고 요와요 말해지 뉴모버 쪽에들 미들 컨트롤요 말봐 미들 제와게 종으로 변하고 대마치 딱 빨아서 종을 derching 좀 보지 차대 딱고 차래 되변아 다리 자나요 주 뉴모버 차대 타만 매발체는 딱 맞지네 레다 뉴모버 차대 말 매발체네 주 derching 좀 보대야 착하리야 야라 슬락살이야 디다와 시선은 오 드리 시와 잡고 강길 미니 사지 깔은 가와마도 없으니 디 하고르미니 디면 소인을 로요리 끼리세 비담제 대와다 디지 끼리세고 드리 빼 고요리 동담베니 추는가 봐요 말이 대하고나 우보에 사지 깔은 거 소이 집 대tom제를 도마오네 대tom제를 동문이 고사나 대tom 싸와네 요 말에
So I hope I understood the question. The answer is when somebody harm you, no matter how bad that person is, he or she still has the Buddha nature. And when such a person harms you, you should think about three things. Number one, the person has Buddha nature. Number two, you are being harmed by this person as a result of your own karma. Number three, and that person is completely occupied by afflicting emotions, anger, for example. So if you you want to use Vajrakilaya on that person, your target should be the person's anger, not the person, him or herself. You must know that the person who is harming you is actually the victim of his or her own anger. So try to hit the Vajrakilaya on the anger of the person, not on the person, him or herself. So it's like a mother beating her child. The mother has true love for the child, but for the future of the child, she is even ready to beat up the very child she loves the most. So taming others through the practice is something like that. Yesterday, during the explanation of the Kilaya, the symbol of great compassion was the head of crocodile. So a crocodile, when it grabs an animal, it doesn't let it go at all. So when somebody has, very, very vast and deep compassion, then no sentient being is, giving up. No sentient being is excluded from that feeling of compassion. So no matter how bad the person is, there will be a way to work with that person to free from afflicting emotions. Through the wrathful activities of liberating, by the power of that great compassion, the person's Buddha nature is separated from its afflicting emotions, and the Buddha nature is put aside from the afflicting emotions, and it's a kind of liberation of the Buddha nature of that being from its own afflicting emotions. If you understand that meaning, then it is easy to know how these teachings, seemingly contradictory to each other, are essentially, meeting on the same point. If you don't know this, then it seems contradicting each other, because in some part of the teaching it talks about loving others, taking care of others, being kind to others, and on the other side it's talking about killing and stabbing and murdering. So it's very important to know the most essential meaning. So if you understand the meaning of these teachings well, then there will be no doubt about these things. So it's very important to know. Delarwal durje phuba yedang ni dus chigla shokpa dus chigla shokpa min dus and shokpa digi machine khare chungi res
the tang cho tham je la parji chep je zo yore teni de kap je la tham je parji chep jo de bela the teni pe she ba mang bo yore the dorje ri chi shokpa de yela bo shi shokpa yela dorji shokpa teni simbayore in the top the shirabu dance are they don't Mangbu de Tata Trishil Chaya Yomares, Shopa Meva the Carreri di Shopa Meva the Guchu Nangna, Nigadula, Papa Chung Gongora, Papa Chung Gomna, Tinitella, the Chung Kantamna, Tini Jimebe, Sartek Saniba, Papa Zungdele, Nigadala Gomdela. She's about to go out, tell us Sartek Sani. Didn't the governor decree or the Sartek Sani tap the order? The governor decree.
The Shopa make you the Ning Gomia the wall.
Re. Shopa Meva Sartek Sani, the younger than a Gomia. Oh, Re. The Anglo Kaka Sari. The Chetan Lokakari, Chetan, the younger than a Gombi, she's about it. Shopa Yomari, Jin Kanyo Yomari, Jersey, Jackie Sani Yore, then the young tap the Kakari. Shopa only the Shopa Gore, the Shopa Gore, Ole, and the Shopa Madoga. They are the top Shiesuke, Kodo subject at Trio and Melody. Shazam Sadu, the Shopa Gore, the Yore. Richard Sani, the Shopa Yomari, now the Tauna, the Tapi Mambo. Tirka Mambo, Dutta Mambo, Lamana Pesapa Mambo, Zegado, in a new Sankabodo Abbey.
Usually, the wrathful deities have 8 main attributes on their body, and for the 8 herokas, they have 10 main attributes. 10. So the one form of Vajrakilaya has 2 wings, and those 2 wings symbolize skillful means and wisdom. And in some tankas, the wings are not drawn. That is probably when you practice Vajrakilaya, you visualize 1 kilaya in your heart, and that has no wings. And probably when the tanka is without the wing, it is referring to that particular part of the visualization. The Tantra of Vajrakilaya was expounded by many different masters, and each master came out with a different way of drawing, so they are not always the same. Dorje Shunu is another name for Vajrakilaya. Shunu means young, somebody who is in the youth. Actually, Vajrakilaya is Dorje Phangmo, Dorje Purba. And Dorje Shunu is another name for Vajrakumara in Sanskrit for Dorje Shunu. Dorje Shunu in Sanskrit is Vajrakumara. In the Vajrakilaya practice, by killing the afflictive emotions of someone else, if in the state of ultimate realization there is no duality, then the person whose afflictive emotions we are attempting to eliminate or kill is irrelevant. The afflictive emotions are our own.
Mario, Ranga Tonta, Mato Simchi, or Mato Simchi, Ranga Theatre, Tonshina, Tata took to Ranga Todi, or the Simchi, the Tandi to be or Rana by your child. Oh, Simchi, then the watching the tone. Oh, Koton, what I knew Barazon, Chagong Tabri Mato to Jebe, Kongo, the Barbado, some Tonshina, Tati was a drink to grey, the penna. Taking Chagong, the shots on the challenge door, a flat and easily by child was like Tokala, so the Dorji Jones there and your daughter there. New Muba must say, Conso Duni, Tatang so new Muba Camarina, Mussola, Dungi, water do Basis or Charlotte, St. Peter, the Dungi Yoganova, the new Muba Dungira. But in Chagong, the Chadina, jumps out on Chagong, the Una, Chagong calling Dungira. On Chagong, the shots on the Dungi, or say it in the 다리들 피부스를 누버스를 세야 되는 다 다른 딘즈바데 요도와 세야 되고 또 코로고 세 그래서 코로고 세게 요 말에 빼나 코로 세게 말에 지와게 세게 요 빼나 지와게 되니 자금처럼 해왔다가 빼너지 내가 세공적이야 네 세공은 라사마 샤되오나 네 세공 똑바이다 야 세공도 담아지잖아 들이 골라 샤되라 플라샤는 세공도 가지 차소나 다리 샤르도 샤데 컨트롤 바텀들을 각하라 샤르도 샤라데나 샤사사 이요 말아 들이 샘핑 탐지 사지 톡도 니스베 봐 차메 빼나 가서 지출감 미스리 시에라 들이 고차 버려 빼나 대 청매 고고리 대배 도다야 버려 강이 빼는 매니这个片生活年龄需要了吧？日把工的，这个的工作建立变成出把结构呢，基本这个就工作嘛，就讲工作嘛的，工作让人要嘛，今天工作地让人家话嘞，但工作东西些，你工作让人没吧些，这就不学堂学了了吧？哦，这里他妈的课学堂的，那个伢呢，大概是都广东都有他课，从旁边就去了边了，这里，다들 깨장 토마테세요 네. 강는데 라다 버친 칸나. 주바버사티 토디 거래. 토도 백버제르소. 제르 지역은 제르 이지와 모델이지.
When you have realized non-duality, then you have realized the reality And at that time you can clearly see how sentient beings are confused. And you find that sentient beings are like a frozen water. They are essentially enlightened, but they are confused and like they are frozen. So you have more confidence and power in eliminating their afflicting emotions, because you know that their afflictions are also not real and fake. So you are more courageous in doing that. Essentially, all sentient beings are one and the same, the nature of mind. But temporarily, they are overwhelmed by afflicting emotions. So when they are overwhelmed by afflicting emotions, they are in confusion and they experience real suffering. So through your realization of the fundamental sameness, you can help those beings get rid of those sufferings by allowing them to get rid of their own afflicting emotions. For example, it is like frozen water and water which is just not frozen. The only difference is one is a piece of ice and one is not. All these activities are performed when sentient beings are not aware of that sameness, when they are still confused. These are performed out of compassion by those who have realized on those who are not yet realized. Rinpoche was using an example of a mirror. If you have a mirror on your table which is not very clean, then this shrine and the deities in the shrine cannot reflect in the mirror clearly. So you keep cleaning the mirror and the reflection become clearer and clearer. And then one day if the mirror drops and breaks into pieces, then all the reflections dissolve back into the shrine. In the same way, you clean sentient beings through different ways. And when they realize, they become one with all the enlightened beings. Let's say there are two people. One is a very good practitioner who has seen the nature of mind, and one is completely mundane and no experience of practice at all. So the person who has no practice at all, who has no idea about the nature of mind, would be very aggressive and very angry and very short-tempered. In that situation, the one who has the practice, who has seen the nature of mind, has the responsibility to help that person get rid of anger. For the one who has realized anger is not real anymore, but for that person it is real. So therefore, the person who has practiced has to say that anger is bad, anger brings you suffering. As a result of anger, you are going to be born in hell, and all these things. And the person has to be helped through explanations, through different ways. Otherwise, that person is going to end up in prison by creating a lot of crimes. So in the same way, the realized beings, for them, everything is illusion, not real. But to free those who are confused, they accordingly guide them. We are still with the fourth nail, which was the nail of proliferation and dissolution, in which the rays of light first proliferates, goes to the 10 directions, make offerings, then dissolves back.
Tiri tari kodo zambu chupa phalo ge chi labshayo. Teka saje tamjele chupa phala pena gauri dire zubda taro riza tamje chupa lamo ge niru lamo tamje thon tani saje gache yona ti tanga ge tamje saje tamje tadar tuyo sa. Te tamje chupa phalo kani tini chupa lamo da ki ba saje ko so thogla so pha thimlo gore nyamda thimlo gore ji. Tani te thamna saje tamje igo jumsi gaure samata gore ji. 사제는 추바펄 사제 이 사제는 추번 일이 요 말에 빼라 사제는 추번 일이 매라 추바된 거 되고 소도 사축을 셈래 원래 사축을 셈 남아니 소야 들이 사디 어제때 사축 셈고 어제때 그게 다다 미지를 제와나 디 어제때 보나 제와지 미지 편지 빼 대와 요래 원래 계자시 냠들 내오는 빼나 대와 요래 대 나기 산축처럼 똑되게 아 다보시가 사제 탑제 생을 주는 추바는 전로 요래지 대 강연의 사제 탑제를 드리 공자를 심지마도 요말 심지 탑제 빈바다 대화도 공제 빼나 뒤동다라 드리 잠이 좀 초사를 공로 봐 상지에 이 상제를 미적가 상촉 셈지라 상촉 셈지 마타되더니 상제 탐지 되게 니가 요래 조방 무슨 요대 요와 되라 드니 다당 속에 슬라공 마데 제비 까블라 드니 뉴모 남도 라미다 조야 매바들 랩용고 요래 디 탐지 조발을 견래 내가 그 핀발라 남도 어디 다 발을 견 타토게 디 동시바 드니 동치보 니 요래 배라 다와지들이랑 그 사족 셈들 네바 톱 될 사지 담지 니요래지 내가 남도 어지리 내가 다다 그러다 빼네 리라고 돼 남도 어지나 마볼래 오르바 디지다 남도 마볼래 오르 다들이 건도 잡고 죽디 마보지 저들래 저들래 니셔 니셔를 좀 지집들이 집저에 다 장매 빨리 들이파 둘이들이 니 셈디 티나 한토 남도 저롱요 말에 빼나 타마르 똑바지와는 제는도 따바이서 나도는 피바 니우지라 자발라 지 다다 남도 딱바는 견되지 니 사지 탐지 동부보니 왜 쥐대 사촉 세고 쥐는 니요가 원래
These offerings to offer to all the Buddhas in the 10 directions when you experience a lot of thoughts, discursive thoughts coming up in your mind during the recitation. So just to protect your mind from getting occupied by the thoughts, you use the thought as offering to all enlightened beings. And with the rays of light, there are offering goddesses who are holding offerings of the 5 sense objects. And when all these offerings are offered to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, these lights and goddesses return, dissolve into you with the blessing of the body, speech and mind of all those enlightened beings. Now, in this process of making offering, there are 2 factors. The first factor is that you please all the enlightened beings by demonstrating your loving kindness and compassion for all sentient beings. All these offerings are made for the sake of all sentient beings. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas do not wait for your offering, but by making this offering, you admit your loving kindness and compassion to all sentient beings. For the enlightened beings, the most important thing is bodhicitta. And if one person can generate bodhicitta, that becomes the most precious offering for the enlightened beings. And that is the benefit making these offerings. And the temporary benefit of doing this offering is that you can transform these thoughts that interfere in your visualization into something virtuous. You can direct your mind from those thoughts to these rays of light and turn them into offering. So that is the temporary benefit. Generally, the whole practice of the generation stage is a method of transforming thoughts, transforming ordinary thoughts into extraordinary thoughts.
드니 제 플라탐지 구성투가 산합대 가래지라 드니 정도다 사원 삼세 디 플라탐지 진리법감이야 속교 주성그 사제 탐지다 플라강 공부는 디담발 제대로 거려 빼나 다다 도르지 종로 보고도 속교 주성그 사제 탐지 도르지 종로 라소된다 봐 진리요네 드니 빼나고 디 탐지 구성투 산합탐지 라나디 구성투 산합고 보 가래리들라 사제 탐지 사조sem hinji chim보래 체 매번 hinji chim보 또 다른 hinji 충충마도 이어 말이라 hinji 또업대 페라 사제 탐지 hinji 또업대 가지고 재밌더라 레고나 제가 무슨 체 매번 hinji 찌네 들이 뒤도고 다 세sem지 탐지 빼놓고 작롬답을 차대요 제 탐지를 왜저 포마 다되더니 바모님의 시와다 들이 sem지 탐지 dir직니 오라는 감을 세네 들이 sem지 탐지 롭서들이 빼나 저걸 강이나 도지존이 저거 걸라 소라 벨라 라메 된 조성 삼이 원래 된 줄게 대양 이제네 벨고 초당 자롱 그치 바마도 매 살상하가 다 시대오나 뒤 때문에 답변이라고 제베서 삼중지대 콘솔을 때니 자롱 따고 차도 지대 때문에 인지 매 말이 나딘지 자롱 차대래 이렇게 탐지하게 인지가 따도 저렇게 인지가 빠졌다 남상 고소 탐지 라이콜 조성 자들이 고나 Tini makpa rere gong di kami tini semki tamche rimbi semki ang le kawanda di mangu chondo yore bena. Ta tini re di rizhen chondo makpa zer so.
In the visualization, the blessing of the body, speech and mind of the deities fall like rain of syllables, seed syllables and scepters and also in form of many countless replicas of Vajrakilaya. All these forms that rain down on you are essentially infinite compassion. Right now, you have very little compassion, limited compassion. So, when you receive the body, blessing of body, speech and mind of the deities, what is that blessing? It's infinite compassion. So, when this light dissolves into your body, now you are fully charged with great compassion. And then you radiate the same kind of light on all sentient beings. And in the visualization, as soon as these rays of light touch sentient beings, they become immediately awakened. They realize their Buddha nature and become part of the mandala of Vajrakilaya. Again, you need the view that the difference between sentient beings and the Buddha is like the difference between ordinary water and ice. Sentient beings have become like ice because they don't have the warmth of loving kindness and compassion. So when your infinite loving kindness and compassion shines on them in the form of light rays, they become like ordinary water and they become part of the mandala. So through visualization, making this offering is called the fourth nail, the nail of proliferation and dissolution.
Teni tata di papa nyamni chendu yoba kashe yor teni tsu latini teni papa wan kuyo re de. Temi chitang di kaza soso lota me pa latini teni ta sura dotap tangje te tar song re soso me pa kare una tena jing su lalin de go re. Teni te mi di sapa tamche ki papa nyam su lang na yakbo yo re. Ngusui jadu papa nyamni chiki yore. Sini malang na jadu dem chua dang yidam jida nyamchili ngole. Nyamchili tang chikpa re. Jongta ka tumriya chikpa re. Tini rarang sirap le je drewa yomi. Tini mili nyamni tamche ne chikda tili tini tago re.
Some of the disciples would like to practice Vajrakilaya, and especially for them, I decided to give the empowerment of Vajrakilaya this time during this summer teaching. Generally, you should practice the deity which you feel more inspiring and with whom you feel strong karmic connection. Those who do not wish to practice Vajrakilaya, I'm also a practitioner of Vajrakilaya. Those who do not wish to practice Vajrakilaya can practice Chakra Sambhara or whatever. The method of practicing is more or less the same in every different practices. And of course the final goal is also the same.
Teni tena tata di duptap tamche chendan diba du maju teni tata duptap soso ke 저기 뭐 예담삽 저거 그 예담삽 반대 예담 대단히 되니 말해서 되니 배시에 주 망보 이열에 제 소소라는 게 저거요 말에 예담 대당 좀 탑드나 지금 소라 대좀 제용 변나 변는 것이지 디다다 너무 뭐 그게 두둑이래 이 두둑 딩하게 생리를 때에는 그거를 뭐지 공성는 데니 그거를 뭐지 공부 벽을 열었더니 투드럽 렉라마라 또다서 미어래 성동 차이었지 유나양 대탐지 행보 찍던데 봤더니 투드럽 내 인성 잡낭을 해야지 되네가게 양 대사가 투드럽지 양디 대사 투드럽 대 배랑 무슨 저 되게 야 디드는 양 뭐지 군지 아니 양 투드럽 내 인성 들이 가사가라 들이 양행 내 인성에 들이 텔마이나 디제다도 탑탐체나 들이 송구요 송거래 너무 맛이나 오 다음에 그런 뭐지 준송하나기 차대로 양이 하니 양이 되지 안 되나데 다 하니 양이 되지 다 가래서 거요래 다 양이 가래래 뭐 단디기는 오 코라 이나 춘이 매와서 같으니다 다 탑가 사보더니 나가 사보더니 거기야지 드니 로래 단디기면 대다가 로팅이 되겠다 찔러미리리 된 거아주 거기에 고상고요 해지 동 무슨 그런 뭐 지겠으나 가자 깨끗 빼는 투럽 대응 것이 투럽 대응 양이 제소나 그거를 보지 건가 별라 투럽 또나 써미지 뒤나는 대지 뭐 양이 제네 양행得到왜 직바에서 종대송자 해지 그거는 뭐 종균 송을 말이지 예담 탐지를 예담 더럽나 원래 체질의 상지에 더 송요래지 오 예담 대당 대라 당고 산총 초도 샘기 반에 정도 타만 공부도 봐 상파지 봐 예담을 리라 유담 럽탑 레초 만용 제비 망보요래 대 참만에 뒤에 바대 요래 되나 들이다고 되죠
모두 디궁 라마데 수르스 뭐지 디궁기 둑탑디 라마스
손 저거는 토럽이 올라가 손 리도지 때마 토럽이 올라가 손 리도지 때 몸도 리도지 때 나온 게 됐던 거래 됐던 거 사도 되나
There are a number of methods for practicing, and the author of each system of teaching, which we call the method of practicing, say that this is the most profound, most quintessential kind of practice. And then the same goes with the deities. The practitioner of Kilaya say that the Kilaya practice is the most powerful, most profound, most effective. When these kind of statements are made, then some people feel kind of doubtful because everyone says the same thing. So I myself used to feel in the same way. For instance, 툭룹 스는 지난 가래래 나름이지. 툭룹 스는 툭룹이야 간래래지.
네, 그러는 뭐지 툭 그러지 툭이죠 봐. 그송 툭으로 봐. 툭 다다다 동이 동담배 대신이 뭐 대도야. 우리 툭룹.
In Tibet, there are more than 3,000 different types of methods to realize the mind of Guru Padmasambhava, which we call Thukdup in Tibetan, which means accomplishing the mind. And a lot of these kind of teachings were discovered from treasure by Lho Nuden Dorje. Nuden Dorje was one of the greatest Terton, or treasure revealer in the Digun Kagyu lineage. Lho Nuden Dorje says in those texts that this is the most essential teaching of Guru Rinpoche. This has the quintessential points of the entire teaching. And then there are the same kind of teachings from other Tertons. And they also say the same thing, that this teaching is the most profound, quintessential teaching of Guru Rinpoche. So now how can there be two most profound and most essential teaching from the same Guru? The reason why the great masters claim their teachings in deities to be the most effective and profound is to pursue sentient beings, to practice them. It is the general tendency of human beings with ego to choose the best. So when such a practitioner looks at this kind of writing and he thinks, oh, this is the best for me, I should practice this. So we usually look for a method of practicing which is only with you, but nobody else has that. That's how sometimes we come across writings which says, if this idam is practiced, then one can attain enlightenment in one lifetime and so forth. In fact, all these methods, all these deities are one and the same. and they are all capable of helping sentient beings attain Buddhahood. But there are differences in emphasis. Actually, all practices begin with refuge and bodhicitta and so forth. But in the actual practice, the way of applying things, the way of using substances, these are different. But essentially, they are all equally powerful.
Ta dub da lo ju tham je she so na ti ti ni di hla te dub ti ni ta yam ti ti ni jo te ti hla de pe chomu ma yi ba yi zhe xie ju dam ju na ta ma da pe man bo yue le de le za wa ni je yue ma le hla de dub dang la ha le o so ta de gong xie ba je de o le chu zhe ba ma zo zhe chu zo so zhe bu chu de xi le nyam zhe li ba gang za de pe na ko Tawa gomba chupa la sopa ke nishok kache una pena lati ni tok yung di te tsamsik na ke tapo ja tsuku yore ole ya ta kanza ke ni top te kare le che zengori dina ye sanchuk sim che zengori ye sanchuk sim che zengori sanchuk sim ku ye una pena ko ye rong sa wo yu rong mei rong ole range Lagong ngade lunga ke gebjor kang che rong thamje pen ko ser ge zubana yi yin song sanchok cheng ye se wa te sanchok cheng ye ma zi na pe je rong ha chang sa wo de zu ya ba nam ye gom tu ko yo re de ge thmong ngun tele ngu shi da zhe da da cha da nga ni ja da so ba na ba de ko yo re thmong ge tu da de ko yo re de 얘는 탑top 살아 빼놓고 사람 그 받치래 빼나 되게 좀 마보시 해줘야 돼 되나 이제 산축제 대탐제 주저와 사고 샤네 라 탐제는 지와는 기래 돼 저는 이제 산축선 연배선나 되는 거서 그 로다과 쓰면나 산축선 해줘야 주술라는 산축선 때다 라를 효소나 되는 마음으로 소소 시랍 체험제 되는 라는 게 강 냠스랑나 레베 더 봐 연구 요리야. 오래. 슬라 강도래 협상적생 비자 고래 제변나.
In the scriptures, the authors talk about extraordinary signs upon accomplishing certain deities. And there are all sorts of things that you can read in the text. But it is not necessary to believe in all of this as it is written. In order to accomplish a deity, most important than the deity is the way you practice it. So if you have the right way of accomplishing the deity or practicing the deity, then that deity can become very effective, very powerful. So the power of the deity can be determined by your style of practicing. So what is the right way to practice the deity? What is the right way to make the deity practice the most effective? It is to do the practice with bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the kind of mark which decides the quality of your practice. In your generation stage, in your visualizations, in your mantra recitations, and throughout the deity practice, if you have bodhicitta, then your visualization, your mantra recitation, and the whole thing that is involved in that practice become like made of gold. It becomes great in quality. Without bodhicitta, no matter how hard you practice these mantras and visualizations, you may accomplish some ordinary siddhis, ordinary attainments like clairvoyant power and some magical power. But in order to attain ultimate Buddhahood, these kind of attainments are obstacles. And these kind of attainments, although they are siddhis, they are like made of bronze or copper. They are not good in quality. In your practice of the deity, if you have bodhicitta, then that bodhicitta is the cause of complete enlightenment. And depending on your strength of wisdom, it is going to enable you to attain enlightenment sooner or later.
Teni gombe lala dari di pape ju benane songre the pape ju chipo mari 샤강고나 참아는 되고래 쌀다 띵 섬제 쌀제나 나바 쌀하데 용고래 제 세우고나 빼라다 곰네 제름 곰들이 제네들이 쌀우들이 빼라란 게 나바 쌀하제나 딜라이 곰도 삼티지 차로 통겨 우쪽니 배딘지 빠르다 원래 teni yang mo jaye khang zong de ko ye pa da teni ko ni so de yang jaye khang de thing mang bo teni gom na sa wa de sem ge mo khi ta wa ge pe na teni yang ju yo de teni jang nam pa sa wa so teni nam da thi ba de na ta lai ku ji cha lo me re me bong sam chin la so pa de da thang ge re xie pa re yo de chi chen da la pa ni da la pa sam de ma zo de di na ni ko di du ta re re da ma da re 샤사 망보 여래 배나 대통령 등창 독탑 등 다다 대 가래요나 진행 따라지 이 소주 검나 되는게 독탑 가래로 되는 게 건문이 탄가다 대 참아들이 토토기 니적 요한 말이 때동람이라 망보리 망보 송고 요래지 동라 남다 뒤바지 사이 꾸진 차록 내가 담제 배나 레리라 동물이래 요래 시와라 시제 잡고를 초치에다 담제 동거래지나 레리를 동물이 다리 닭밭이 봐야지 오그지 저렇게 들어가서 말이지 뺀다 참망에 로란도 요아가지 뺀 먹은 청와도 제 가래리지라 그래 너무 봐 다다고 넘버 똑바 먹이에 똑바 탐지 먹이에 똑바 탐지 준비 시작해 신나 빼나 민고제 바다래 빼나 원래 남도데 의마지나 어제 꼬마 커와도 지레가 담아다게 뉴모바 레사커요래 디스는 남도 탐게 니 드지 똑방 앞에 딱게 제받달라더니 먹은 총와이 좀 빼나더니 루베지 독통게 바로 선도라서 봤더니 송고요래 띵게 론도고 매 우진이제 자와랭아 창거요래 빼나 르가야요 창거 대다와 닭린데 데리데 대 통리 동티 삼례 일 진행을 이제 닭과 진행 봐서 니는 이 시점에 봉들이 배나 사참을 이 시점에 봉이 시점에 되는 배나 다다다고 저 뒤시사고 요새는 남도 강샤샤 탐색에 내가 매바고 따봉에 잡아는 게 책도 그래 대시 뒤시 다른 것들 준비 시랍들이 뒤시사고 럭바 서재집에 따와들 준비 시랍 그런 사람들이 너는 유모만 남도 탐제 책고 뒤배를 사람들이 그 배숙심 뭐여래 어떤 일이
In the Vajrakilaya Tantra and in other tantras, there are the mention of three factors about the deity practice. And these factors should be present in your visualization of the deity. And the factor number 1 is clarity. Number 2 is pure outlook. Number 3 is stability or firmness. So clarity means that the deity that you visualize should appear to your mind very clearly. You should become like a painter in your mind, and you go from the head of the deity down until the lotus disc and upwards until the head. And sometimes you can draw in your mind the whole atmosphere of the deity, the mansion and the mandala and so forth. By looking at every detail of the deity in the practice, you should try to have the clearest visualization. And then second one is pure perception or pure outlook. It means the deities appear adorned with various ornaments and dressed in different brocades. And sometimes they have 2 hands, sometimes more than 2 hands, and sometimes 1 head and sometimes many heads. So all these ornaments and dresses and all these hands and heads have some symbolic meaning to it. In the case of, the same deity is depicted in different forms by different practitioners, different tertons. So you can see the same deity in different styles. Whichever style you are practicing, you can just stick to it. And you shouldn't be confused by seeing some other forms of the same deity. Because the founder of each method for practicing the deity comes out with his or her own style of visualizing the deity. That is why there are all these differences. The ornaments that the deity wear has some meaning. Peaceful deities appear with ornaments of peaceful deities, and wrathful deities appear with like human heads and so forth. So I do not know the symbolic meaning of each and every ornament, but I can say few of them to give you an idea. Some wrathful deities have a garland of human heads, and these human heads symbolize all afflicting emotions, and they are cut. They are like separated from the body with the sword of mindfulness. Sometimes the number of heads in the garland are 51. These 51 fresh heads represents 51 discursive thoughts. When the head of a thief is cut, then it cannot steal. In the same way, through the power of mindfulness, when the head of all these discursive thoughts are cut, they become dead. In the same meaning, there is this fire around the deities. And this fire symbolizes complete mindfulness. The nature of fire is to burn. And all afflicting emotions are like a heap of dry grass. So when this heap of dry grass, which symbolize afflicting emotion, meet the fire of complete mindfulness, they get burnt in an instant. And then sometimes some wrathful deities have head ornaments, skulls, and these 5 skulls represents the 5 Buddha families. In this way, each attribute on the body of the deity has a meaning behind it.
마다 열들이 생글 먹으니 베니 타타다 안로디 빼잖아 샘들 먹기다 다들 나는 못 적어서 못 추는 말이 샘도 샘도 버지니 쪽도니 빼디 파도 마노 거기 차록대 양사답 양타갈 때 양들이 때 양땅도 되나 이 먹점나 할람 자들이 샤리 모요래 빼나 진짜 샤로네 빼는데 타타다 눈을 쳐 샤지는 랑드나 요안에 빼놓고 니는 가까이 말에 드리게 나와 이래 동네에 가도 주라 오랑 그 병고도 파제 샤래 병고도 pom바다에 지나나 플라트 샘들 랑 샘들 살아 잡대래 드리 갈래 양 파가 거더니 오랑 대답이 랑 샘들이 봐 하고 그랬더니 갈래 쳤더니 걔들이 대 갈래들이 랑 pom보 파제 찬지 탐났더니 갈래 들이 치를 땅아들이 그 동성 강화 삼나들이 총득 땅아 종지 제기들이 라마라 제름들이 있잖아. 레라고 요리 제름을 양지요래.
The generation practice has to be familiarized through constant practice. In the beginning, you can use a tanka of the deity, and you can have a very clear look at the tanka, and then you can close your eyes and try to have the reflection of the tanka in your mind. And then in your mind you can watch the deity in detail, starting from the head down to the lotus and starting from the lotus up to the head of the deity. In this way, if you can practice slowly, you will feel the presence of that deity in front of you. And then when you go deeper and deeper in that practice, then you will feel that your body is like a vase, and the deity is inside that vase. And then you go on practicing harder, and then slowly you will lose the sense of having a body of skandhas, aggregates. You now feel more like the deity than somebody who has a deity inside. And at that time, you can expand and reduce the size of your deity body will. Sometimes you can visualize you in the form of deity being huge and sometimes very small. So in this way, the generation practice can be practiced for better and better improvement.
Tani di ngora takje tong la sha de sar tong song yong ya chong nong ji go song le. Tani la gang na chob de le lu de chob yo ma ko lu de je so pa. Tani la ko ng sem na chob de pa de sa wa la na pa sa wa ta yerum ka te jang na de so sa ri yo le pe la o. Pong de le pe la. Yo le 사와텔 되는 거랑 이 똥말에 샘을 들대는 우번 지점에 와 야충들 이나 쇼차대로 쌀똥수 요죠 다 바도랑 그 샘들이 이질을 맞도 이거 말때 다다 플라이 거는 여기서 무슨죠 당아 플라이 상상도 맞잖아 가장 주니 바도를 해와는 요 어떻게 플라트 팀아 다들이 뒤걸을 남서 뒤걸 당타봐 뒤니 바다다 게름을 되는 용어를 돼
The nature of the deity is clear and empty. So when you visualize the deity, you shouldn't consider the deity being something solid, something concrete. The body of the deity is in the nature of light. It is in the nature of rainbow. It is not kind of hard substance. The more you practice the generation stage, the clearer the appearance of the deity become. It is so clear as if you are seeing it like from your own eyes, real eyes, but it is essentially empty. It is insubstantial. When your mind is identified with this kind of visualization, then in the state of pardo, your mind becomes it. For instance, in the state of pardo of dharmata, when the consciousness is there without the body, it actually becomes enlightened in the form of the deity that it had visualized while living.
Tani shabla nimata da din titing na pena ta dorji yona la shamni ye yo du ye so pena du je te fly per du nyu mo pa du chabda ga du pungbu du chabda ga du ye tin ju di ngaje xedang chado 어제 xedang chado 노차 나디 뉴모 바탐제 레 디목요 말이지 디목고 디목 남바타 반도지 요는 코를 빼나 디스네더니 디목데 이 실은 저런들이 뉴모 바 이자테라 효과고는 다다 유tin 감디 도메 그 자탐제 뉴 이자는 되고요래 잠니 뉴 이자래 되니
Vajrakilaya is standing on a disk of moon, which is on a disk of sun. So first there's the sun disk, then a moon disk, and under his feet he is pressing down the 4 demons. The 4 demons are the demon of God, Sun, the demon of afflicting emotion, the demon of the Lord of Death, and the demon of the skandhas or the 5 aggregates. And these 4 demons are one and the same as the 4 afflictive emotions. They are ego, anger, jealousy, and attachment. Under his feet, what afflicting emotion is missing is ignorance. So the purified state of ignorance is timeless awareness, and timeless awareness is being symbolized by Vajrakilaya himself. So among these 5 afflictive emotions, ignorance is realized as timeless awareness, and ignorance itself, being pure, is now suppressing the other 4 afflictive emotions. And then sometimes there is the disc of lotus that symbolizes the fact that all these deities are free from attachment.
Nampa sarva namda chimba nyeri ta ngajar te baat ting baat Majarti della slatinga musum de sam de jure. Nga musum de yin sam be penate. Yin sam nga yin sam be ke yongu yo mare. Ngune re la mare rang sim tak che ta na slatam che so la mi darang shi ba na ye re penata ta. Tongba je de yin je song yu le lam to to ye me ba re. Tene lam to to rang sim ye me ba rang ya pe na nga che me pe yin je ki na. Tene 동만이 소소리 전에 요발이 오 나는 그 시험 사트비 못하려 랑그 샘대 유용 뭐 봐도 마산나 삼hin이가 되나 사이 토소다가 무서리도 산데 되는 거네 랑이랑 이시제네 배나 제티가네 돈이인지 예민가라 되니 랑그 샘 따라가라 되잖아 사이 토소대 무서리 사랑게 다리 토소 톱지 사이 소금데 원이 제야리 공부하면 저 제르지네 데르테나 시지야 라가라 이시에 어레다 사자치 동으로 시에그 되게 간이 차잖아 사이 투소데랑 소고 자야 요데레 되게 제제니 되게 과 차거래 사이
zerdi kandesu zerdi 단지 zer지 송송한다 간데
zer 단데디
단다 좀 송송 단지 zerdi 동 직바레스 zer 간데
zertarla zerge lo sarwa tanto sartini takson zerge lo sare
menje tanda
kodi zertarwa zerge kam gongba me jo zerche la gongba me jo zerde ta lai so de ngang useri de ole lai to so de ti gongbu zerte ni ko ni dong ji ba ba
las
lai to so de zerche ning bo de na ning je de tin ter gongba me jo zerde ti na ki la o ti.
The third factor was stability. It means the divine pride. In the visualization, in the generation stage, you have to really feel that you are a divine being. It doesn't mean that you are pretending to be somebody you are not. If you analyze nature of your mind and see it clearly, then you don't find any distinction between the nature of your mind and the nature of the deity. They are both one and the same. What is the nature of the deity? The nature of the deity is emptiness and compassion unified. When your mind is completely free from afflicting emotions, and when it is permeated with loving kindness and compassion, then that mind is in the nature of a deity. That mind is actually a deity, because it has the nature of the deity. With such confidence, you feel that you are truly in the nature of a deity, and you know that. And this kind of confidence or divine pride is very similar to the one of the nails that we talked about earlier, the nail of unchanging view.
Nga ndro kase yone bena ndro kyo na bam kyo ndro re na bam tini bam da yore ti che te yang bena 강라 군에 이제 가장 집부터 이제 진수고요 말에 빼는 하 따담 다 체들라 장가 마요 따담 다 체들라 되니 누가 이서 마행바 이는 매책 많이 받는 참나 되는 따들이 그래서 사태 사태 다som때 사담을 로나 되니 이니티 슬라이 고통토리라 고치차 랑마테 나와 탐제 슬라이 나와 되니 잡과 탐제 마 되니 제도 탐제 배나라 그 지식 심바 원래 영화 매봐 되니 되니 용탐라 되니 슬라이 고통토도 그요래 나라 르섬제 디선은 마 체대 담선 거요래 되니 다당 무슨 냠들이 백감이 당마 장가 집보전에 되니 가행 매여 바다 쳤다 되니 공지 등등 되지 공지 연구요 말에 디선들이 마 대장아 망졌지 땅 가시더니 낭 요래 돼 이나양 빼놓고 다 잘해 빼는 좋은 거를 다다다다 송하는 게 좀 마송랑 하디베 팽이 다 요래 빼나 소금산 좀 잡아 덮고 요래 돼 숨소다고 다다 무슨들이 랩지 좀 제라서 봐 토마토 빠져 뭐 둘룩게 이렇게 말해 원래 루톡게 디티처리 맨마 장가야 디레지 별로 디처리 마행 바고네
So, Rinpoche, ngak nang druchu na bumchu, ngak nang druchu na kadesung
druchu na bumchu, drugo na
bumgo,
druchu re. Vajrakilaya la mukha manyo yore. Kachira ombe ta Vajrakilaya sawan bagni pahong pai dani mere. Kachira ombe ta Vajrakilaya sawan bagani pahong pai chahong a manyo yore.
In the Vajrakilaya, there are few versions of the mantra. Some mantra has 10 syllables, some mantra has 9 syllables, some mantra has another number. So if the mantra that you are doing has 10 syllables, that mantra should be recited for 10,000 times, 1 million times. And during this recitation, it is extremely important to have your body, speech and mind in complete mindfulness, without any distraction. With that, if you can recite the mantra, then you can realize the body, speech and mind of the deity in yourself. And not only that, you can even discover or realize all appearances in the nature of deity, and all sounds in the nature of mantras, and all thoughts in the nature of mindfulness. If you are only concerned about the number of recitation, and if you try to recite without much mindfulness, if you just do it for the number, then that cannot be a good foundation for you to have one-pointed meditation. And recitation without mindfulness will definitely bring a lot of merit, but they cannot become the causes efficient to help you accomplish the 4 activities.
Delatine tata di nanda raksum jang pena tata dong ubo tena zogla tena senocha rang sem dirjing jumbo di ngon thong dewa de zogla tene chadang ma jere tabla tani jeran la nawa la ole dala tene chadang to ba ma jere chala ni zong di to ba ma jere tabla chapa tham chi ha ye long da yo da tani nga yang la so ba tham je teni drinto lang drishi pa marwana o teni nyumo pa namto tham yara sa le pele chom te yang ta sa ja chi be tong di pe lo ko tong nam sa chu sem de ngo de tong le tap teni je to di la so pa tham ko job sa chu sem sam ni je je tap sa chu sem na ba ni ti tong chi pu la chen de yo re teni sa ma ta ngo re je.
Thought of attachment is a defilement for the mind. When you have seen the nature of mind, then you keep your visualization to free your body, speech and mind from attachment, so that your mind continue to be free from defilement. Because of that, to get rid of attachment to form, you visualize the deity. To get rid of attachment to sound, you recite the mantra. And also you regard all sounds as mantra, the sound of wind and other elements, the sound of whatever it is. And then every thought are looked at with complete mindfulness. In this way, by keeping the body, speech and mind away from attachment, maintain the clarity of your mind. So this kind of practice is connected with the practice of Mahamudra. And Mahamudra is the practice of ultimate bodhicitta. In your generation stage, when you maintain the forms as deity, sound as mantra, thoughts as mindfulness, that is the practice of ultimate bodhicitta. And then you visualize rays of light going to the Buddha fields, going to sentient beings, making offerings, benefiting sentient beings. That part is the practice of relative bodhicitta. So the whole process in the generation stage is included in the 2 bodhicittas, relative and absolute.